Round number 3, I was paired up against a FIDE master, Paul Cooksey. Very strong player. He's a 23-34 FIDE master. He's been high rated in the past, but still very, very strong. And I wasn't really sure what to expect going into this game. I thought he was going to play d4, e4, c4. He seemed like he played a little bit of everything. So he played d4. I played knight f6. He played knight f3. I went g6, going for that King's Indian defense. You know it. He continued with c4. I played bishop g7, just finishing the King's Indian, knight c3, castles, e4, and d6. So we get the classic King's Indian position. White gets all the center, and I'm going to lash out at the center with like e5 or c5 in the future. He went for bishop e2. I played knight a6. And now the plan is e5, followed by knight c5, and I'm going to apply more pressure on this pawn in the center. He castles, I played e5. He played bishop e3, getting the bishop up, protecting the pawn, so that if I can take it like this, he can take with the bishop, for example, and this isn't particularly good. Or maybe he just takes with the knight, but he'll have this extra bishop for support, and he'll be able to play f3 and tuck it away in the future. So I played knight g4, probing the bishop. He played bishop g4. Isn't my knight bad on the edge of the board? Well, I'm about to put both of them on the edge of the board. And no, they're actually not bad, because this knight is going to re-enter via c5 or c7. And from there, they'll actually be very active and able to access the center of the board. So yeah, I'm breaking a lot of the principles, but it's theoretical and it is good. So you play bishop g5, attacking my queen. My queen moves to e8, and this move actually makes a concrete threat, which is pretty cool, by the way. Does anyone want to try and find the concrete threat that's made by queen to e8? I'll give you all a bit of time. And I'm going to play a nonsense move for white, like a3. Black is winning material here. Black is doing very good. Okay, the idea is that you play pawn takes pawn in the center, and after the knight captures it, you play knight takes on h2, sacrificing the knight over here. And if the king takes it, you have queen e5, pawn moves, and then you win back the knight with an extra pawn. Exactly, knight takes on h2. But where this gets really cool is that after the knight captures it, and the rook moves, it looks like our knight is stuck. But you can actually just play knight back to g4 anyway. And if you didn't see this bit, you didn't get it fully right, but I'll give partial credit. And after the bishop takes the knight, you take back, the queen takes it, and then you take the knight in the center. That is the idea. And what's funny about this position, actually, is I wasn't aware of why queen e8 was a theory move over the board, but I figured it out once he started tanking for a long time, because he was obviously out of book. I was like, there must be something going on in the position, otherwise he wouldn't be tanking. But eventually he figured it out, and he decided to capture this pawn and then play h3. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I still knew this was theory. I played the f6 line, because I prefer it a bit to the h6 line. He moved his bishop back to d2, which is the main line. I played knight to h6. And I was a little bit concerned that he was going to find this move over the board, which is c5. And things get very, very, very complicated. After c5, queen c1, knight f7, and knight d5. It gets very, very crazy. But he didn't know this. Clearly, he didn't know this theory, so we didn't have to get into the weeds of all of that. And instead, he played a3. I responded with c6, which is main idea is to go knight c7. Also opens up this maybe c5 square, stops this knight from going forward as well. So it's a very, very flexible move. Quite a nice move. And he goes for b4. I play knight f7. Now the knight gets out of the way of any pressure over here. And I can also maybe prepare some f5 move in the future. You didn't even take any time to calculate. I still have an hour 30, but that's because I knew the theory. I still was in book. And I was in book up until pawn to b4. I wasn't familiar with b4. If you know the theory, you can play quicker and get a bit of a time edge. So I played knight f7. He played rook e1. And I played queen e7, which is still following some theory, apparently, from 2003, following one master game. But the idea behind queen e7 is that I'm preparing rook d8, and also a future pawn to f5 break, now that I have good control over the g5 square with my queen and my knight. He played bishop to e3, which I think was a small mistake, and I think he missed this move, f5. And not necessarily missed it, but I think he missed that after b5, which he spent another long time on, I have this f4 pawn move. So I counterattack his bishop after my knight gets attacked on a6. So I do a bit of danger levels here. I attack his bishop, even though my knight's under attack. And the idea is, there's a pretty crazy line here. Watch this, watch this. This is actually nuts. He takes the knight, I take on e3, he takes on b7, I take on f2, king takes it, queen goes to c5, king to f1, and guess the move that I was considering. Doesn't mean I was going to play it, but look at this. Knight g5, right? And after he takes it with the queen, I have knight takes on h3. And it looks like I'm just threatening a mate, right? And if you capture this way, then you get mated with the bishop. So, can anyone find this insane response that white would have to defend the position? There's only one move. Every other move, white is getting mated. Someone try and find it. I'll give you guys a bit of time. By the way, 2 queens on the board. Like, what is going on? 2 queens on the board, and it looks like black can't stop. You can't stop mate. I saw this position, by the way, and I didn't see white's defense. Queen takes bishop. Queen takes bishop doesn't work because I'm threatening a mate in 1. Can anyone find it? It's absolute lunacy. Knight d4, not legal. Knight d4 is not legal because it's pinned here with the rook. This was important to the line. I did see this. Queen d4 doesn't work because I just take it with my queen and then I'm going for the mate anyway. Queen d4 doesn't work. Queen d5! Now we're talking. Queen d5 is the only move that saves the mate because it forces a response, and after takes the queen from the corner, from the depths of hell, comes out of a8 and then forces the queens off with a losing position for black after this exchange. And I'm down way too much material. So I didn't see this during the game, mind you. I got to this position, I was like, I think black's winning. That was my evaluation. And here instead, the reason why I ended up rejecting the line is because after knight g5, I thought they could just play this. And then I don't have knight h3 anymore. So I just saw this position and rejected it completely. I was like, this looks bad for black. And this is why I turned down the line. But actually, white would have had this insane line where they get a huge advantage rather than just a decent advantage. But yeah, crazy stuff. So this was one of the lines I was looking at. But at the end of the day, I could also just go for something like this with bishop takes on b7, which is what I would have settled on. And I think this position looks very nice for black. But not quite as flashy as the other line. Not quite as cool. So yeah, you already know we're going to be in for a fun game when there's tactics like this early on. Okay, so rewinding the tape. I played f4. They played bishop d2, just running away. And now I get to move my knight into this very nice c5 square. And already I was feeling quite confident. I thought I had a small advantage and a slightly better position. It would have been brilliant if that line happened. No, it wouldn't. I would have lost. That would have been terrible. But unfortunately, or I guess fortunately for me, they had 2 winning lines. They could also have taken the bishop, and that one I did see. Okay, on knight c5, they went bishop f1, just getting the bishop somewhere a bit safer, getting their rook out, preemptively protecting this pawn. Also, they have extra support now on this diagonal in the defense. And I followed up with h5, which is a small inaccuracy. Engine slightly prefers knight g5, saying that after queen takes here. But I thought there was f3, and no, sorry, I didn't think there was f3. I thought there was king h1, and after queen h4, there was f3. And I thought this position, there just wasn't a whole lot. But the engine thinks that there's g5, and then g4, and it gives this just lunatic line where it sacrifices a whole load of pawns and plays knight d3, which is pretty wild. And then after bishop takes, it sacrifices the bishop f6, rook g8, and then white just gets mated like this by force, which is just complete nonsense. I didn't see any of that. I didn't even see g5, but it just goes to show how much attacking potential there is in the King's Indian. And already after knight g5, we were doing better, but I didn't see that. How many games did I play in the tournament? There were 6 games, and this is game number 3. So after the bishop went to f1, and after h5, he just went knight a2, because it's quite hard to come up with a plan here. Knight a2 makes some sense because he wants to get something to this b4 square and put a little bit of pressure on me, but he's kind of just waiting for the avalanche to come down on the king's side. And the avalanche is coming. I play g5, launching the attack on him. He plays bishop to b4, and first I throw in this rook to d8 move after a very long think. I was thinking a lot about this immediate g4 move, but I didn't really like it after knight h2 takes. I didn't see a clear way for me to get into the position, and I thought maybe white would be surviving somehow here, and I wanted to prepare it a little bit first, because at the same time he's got this annoying pin here, and if I give this check and move out of the way, then this pin actually becomes quite severe, and I don't have a good way of meeting it without going back to e7. So I wanted to play rook to d8 first so that I can meet any pins with bishop to f8 in the future. He played this move knight d2, getting his knight out of the way of g4, and then I commit to g4, which I think makes a lot of sense. I'm coming for him basically, I'm coming for the kill. And then he goes queen e2, whoops, and then he goes queen e2, And I start to play like a bit of a lunatic here. And I play f3. So I'm provoking a lot of craziness in this position, but my king's fairly safe with this knight on f7 protecting a bunch of key squares. And this move obviously encourages queen e3, which applies significant pressure to the pin. But this was part of my plan. f3 as well, if they just open up the position, then I've got ideas like knight to g5 and rook takes on d2, and it looks like I'm crashing through basically. That's the main idea. But after f3, he does play queen e3, which is the move that I was kind of baiting out of him. And I go for this completely insane move, which is rook takes on d2. And I think I was going a little bit off the rails here. Rook takes on d2. I'm not particularly happy with it, to be honest. My other move that I was looking at was b6, and I think this is just much better. I rejected b6 because of knight b3, f takes on g2, bishop takes, bishop f1, and I didn't see that there's queen g5, takes, threatening a fork here with knight f3, so that on this move I can fork them first. And then once they get out of the fork with, say, king h1, then I'm able to just capture this one here, and it's just completely winning with them having too many loose pieces. So I messed up the calculation a little bit here on knight b3, but I should have gone for knight b3 anyway, because the position really doesn't, it's just intuitively wrong. You're moving another piece away from the king side when I'm looking to attack you on the king side. So I definitely should have played b6. Anyway, I thought I'd seen a forced win down the line after rook takes on d2, because if he ends up playing bishop takes on c5, I have queen d8, and I protect my rook like this, and bishop h6 is coming, takes is coming, b6 is coming, and you're just getting smashed, basically. I own the d file at that point. And if they go for queen takes it, then I have... queen takes it was what was played. And if they go for bishop takes it, then I have bishop h6, moves... takes, knight b3, queen e3, knight takes rook, pawn takes, pawn takes, bishop f1, and bishop g4. And I thought this was just very, very good for us, very good for me. This looked like a winning line. So I thought it all looked quite attractive, and that on queen takes on d2, I was going to just play pawn takes here on h3, and if the bishop were to have moved to h1, which is also not very good, then I would have bishop h6, queen g4, and all my pieces just come flying in, and it looks like you're basically getting mated. So he didn't like this. The only move to keep white in the game, actually, is bishop takes on c5, where after queen takes on c5, you play bishop to f3, bishop h6, and queen b4, which I didn't see this queen b4 move, which is very, very nice, trying to exchange the queens. Although it still gets crazy. After h2, the king moves, you take a pawn here, and then keep the queens on. And somehow this position is equal. Don't ask me. I have no idea what the engine is cooking up. But this looks completely terrifying for white, with bishop g4, pawns, rooks coming in, queens still on the board. I have no idea how you would be able to defend this. So anyway, there was this line where supposedly white has chances to survive. He ended up taking, I took, he played queen e3. I took on g2, and I played this pretty bad move, queen h4. I'm not super happy with it. I like queen f6 a lot more, because I disallow queen g3 with a tempo if my queen is on h4. And after the king takes the pawn, I can then bring the knight into the game, and there's also this nice move, h4, after the queen goes over to g3. If he takes it, I have the bishop check coming in, queen check comes in, and he just gets mated. So this would have been a nice idea. I considered queen f6. I really don't know why I went for queen h4. I have no idea. I thought it was the more forcing move, but it was just not a very good idea. It was not smart. Another bad decision that I made, basically. So I went queen h4. He took it. I played b6, which was a good decision, and is the only move where black keeps the advantage. Where after b6, I go c5. The bishop has to go back, and now the knight's blocked from accessing c3. But unfortunately, I went the wrong way again. I went bishop to b7. The move I should have played, and the move that I considered for a long time, was knight g5. But I thought that after queen g3, bishop h3, I had seen this line after king h1 where I have knight f3. This is very nice. And I have bishop g4. And I'd seen the line where after here, I can trade queens and play knight f3 and then win the rook. And then try and win this ending after something like here, and then bishop e6, where I'm just much better. So I'd seen those two lines, but I thought that king h1 just sort of it makes white in a better position. But I stopped my calculation here, which was quite lazy. I should have taken the queen and then played scene bishop g4, and then I definitely think I would have gone for this, because this e4 pawn is dropping immediately. And after he plays a random move, and bishop to f3 gets played, the king has to move to one of these two squares, both of which are forkable with knight f3. So if I'd seen this line, I 100% would have gone for it, but I ended my calculation too soon. I ended it on king h1 here and decided that I didn't have an immediate follow-up, which is a bit disappointing. If I'd gone for this, I think there's a good chance I would have won from that position. Instead, I went bishop to b7, he went queen g3, and then I went for bishop takes on e4, because I saw this line also looked pretty good, where I get to win a lot of his light square pawns like this. But somehow after bishop to b2, bishop takes knight c3, he's kind of back in the game. Like, there's knights coming to the center, he's bringing his rooks in, and there's a lot of open files for his rooks to do some damage. I played this move knight d6, which I think we agreed was fine. But then here, knight takes on b4 was the real mistake. This other move that I was considering other than knight b6 was e4, which I didn't give it that much thought, but it's actually an amazing move. And the idea is that it's a pawn sacrifice, but you get this pin, and you just play for the pin, basically. And it's really, really crazy how this position is just much better for black. And I simply couldn't evaluate this. I was too confused. And I ended my line here, and I thought white was better, because eventually they're going to unpin, they're going to move their rook to b1, for example, but I just have rook g8 and bishop g3, and it makes a lot of threats that are very hard to stop. And this is one example line where black can win in great style. I'm destroying an FM? Not for much longer. I played knight d6, they played the knight here, I took with the pawn, and then I just blanked and missed knight d2, which it was a very long game at this point. We've been playing for almost 4 hours, and I think we were both getting a bit tired. But I missed this knight e2 move, which is not good. I moved the bishop out of the way, and he wins a pawn. But then I start pushing my c-pawn, and it gets close. We have a bit of a race, basically. Bishop takes, king takes, knight goes to e4. And at this point, I was just panicking a little bit, to be honest. And this c3 move was just a panic move. I wasn't sure how to make progress here. I wasn't sure if I should maybe take this knight, because after rook takes, maybe I go rook c8. And I was thinking about, like, okay, do I do this? Does he have time for a4? Not quite. Do I then play like a6 myself? Then maybe he could move this rook here. Do I play c3? And I was thinking about all of this, and I think this actually looks quite good for black. Engine gives it equality. But I just completely blanked that after here he has a4. And this was where the panic was starting to set in. That was the first mistake. Technically, the position is still okay if I just go here, which is quite an obvious move. I go for the fork like this. And if he goes for this, then I have a check as well, I think. And then I can do something like this. Maybe this is already completely wrong, actually. What do? I can play bishop takes it. Oh, bishop takes it and then something with c2 and knight b3. But yeah, I missed knight d4 going for this. And at this point, it was starting to collapse a little bit. I played bishop takes on e4, and I was getting ready to just try and play for some tricks. Engine gives +1, but realistically, it's quite hard to defend. For black, I go knight d6, he gives me a check, he gets behind my pawn, and I go knight f5. This is a bit of a desperation check, and I knew in the game that king h3 just wins for white. I don't have much to do here, but I was really hoping for either king f2, which would be a mistake, as I can get my rook into this position like here, 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 and rook h2, and get something going. Or he might go for king f4, which is what he went for in the game, which completely lets me back in the running. Because now I have this move knight d4. And the point is that after knight d4, I'm threatening this fork, I'm threatening this rook potentially, and if you take this pawn, then I'm going for knight to e2, and you don't have rook c6 because the knight protects it. So this is like Kasparov's octopus knight. This is a fantastic knight here. Absolute beast. And after knight b3, I can go knight c5 to block the rook from attacking my pawn. Which is what happened. When he moved his king over, I played knight b3, and he can't go rook c1 with the rook to attack my pawn either. So he gives me a check, moves his rook in, and then I play knight c5 with a check, blocking the rook. But he played this really, really creative move, and I respect it a lot. I was expecting king d4, where I go c2, and after the king steps up, I would just, like, grab this pawn, I guess, or maybe attack the rook first. and then grab the pawn and get this position. But instead he played king e5, which was very, very creative. And I was getting quite nervous here because he has rook g7 and rook e7 as threats, which will get me on the back rank, and then he can go for a ladder mate. So for example, my main idea at first was to go c2 in order to play knight d3 and equals queen with this fork. But he has this move, and this move. And I can't get closer to the rook to do this. And even if I play this move, which, by the way, I think I overlooked it slightly. Hold on, do I have this? Am I okay here after this? I think I overlooked this even in the analysis with rook e8 and something like this. He at least has a draw, I guess. He at least has a draw. But I think I missed this during the game, yeah? Wow. Do I have this? Check. And then this? And then I can meet this check with here, and I'm winning or something? Is this winning? This is completely winning. Did I miss this? Oh, no, he has king f6. He would have had king f6, and I would have lost. Oops. Okay, I didn't see this line either. I don't know. I was definitely panicking a lot here. But even amid all the panic, I managed to find the only move which survives, which is rook e8. Where basically I can meet this rook c7 with a check attacking the rook, and I can beat this rook check with another check attacking the rook. So this rook would just keep revealing. So I survive the position. He brings his king back. I play c2, I go here, he moves his rook out, I take this pawn, which actually was a pretty big mistake, because after he takes back, I have to play a rook e7 move, because if I play this move, he just checks me, and then takes this pawn, and I didn't like the look of this ending very much, because my pawns are split, but maybe I'm doing okay. And after rook e7, if he played rook a1, then I'd have to find b5, which I did see, but I thought it looked pretty loose after I end up with a position something like this. And I honestly had no idea what was going on. Engine says it's close to equal, a bit better for white. So he ends up taking this pawn over here instead of going for that crazy line. And then I just get knight c5. And only black can really play for a win here with these outside pawns. And my rook managed to get behind his pawn and stop it from moving, simply immobilized. Additionally, if he goes king e1, this would actually be a big mistake because I would be able to go here, here, and I guess I can just start pushing my pawn, but I get this very nice position where I can just move the knight back and forth, and I could even just repeat the position quite simply as well. So he ends up bringing his rook back to try and block off my rook, but he just offers the rook trade. I give a check, he blocks, and then he offers the rook trade again, and at this point we agreed to a draw after 2 more moves, because I can't really exchange the rooks. This is just playing to lose here because his king is in time. And I'm going to get like some knight versus rook position, which I don't know why I would want to try and play that for a draw when I could just make it now. And other than that, I have no way to get my rook out. And if he decides to try and play for the win, with, I don't even know, like moving his rook over, then my a pawn starts to run alongside the king, and it gets very, very dangerous for white. So that was the game against the FIDE Master. Pretty wild one. I had a huge advantage at one point, which I'm really sad that I threw away, but that's life. Round number 3, I'm still in first place. Joint first place, mind you, but we'll see how the tournament goes from here. I have 3 more rounds to go. We're halfway through. Joint first place with 4 other players, so we'll see. The next game is very important. So thanks to everyone who watched this far. If you enjoyed my style of teaching and might be interested in some one-to-one coaching, then do check out the link in the description and send me an email. But other than all of that, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!